Welcome to Gift of Life, the Organ Transplant podcast. These are the stories of those who have received, given, and who are waiting for the gift of life, organ transplantation. Now here's your host and heart and kidney recipient, BJ Odom.
Welcome to the Gift of Life, the Organ Transplant podcast, where we explore the extraordinary world of organ transplantation. I'm your host, BJ Odom. Each week, we share inspiring stories and introduce you to remarkable individuals sharing their own transplant stories. Be sure to support the podcast by leaving a 5-star review and subscribing on your preferred podcast platform. Have a transplant story you'd like to share? Or maybe comments about the podcast? Simply email us, giftoflifepodcast@gmail.com. Again, that's giftoflifepodcast@gmail.com. And don't forget to connect with us on Facebook, Gift of Life, the Organ Transplant Podcast. And check out the website, giftoflifepodcast.com. Welcome to episode 71. You may remember Dr. Robert Pritt from episode 38, who received the gift of life himself with a life-saving heart transplant. We all like to see our children follow in our footsteps, except when it comes to a gene that will include major health problems. Both carry the genetic gene LMNA, which causes cardiomyopathy and many times leads to a heart transplant. His daughter, Jennifer Adams, carries this gene, but testing has also shown both her brother and daughter carry it too. There is research happening now, and hopefully someday soon, we can stop this gene from causing the damage to others. Today, we hear from Jennifer Adams and her life-saving transplant story, so she can continue to enjoy her husband, 4 kids, and a brand new grandbaby. We'll check in with Jennifer coming up next. Jennifer, welcome to the podcast. And to kick things off, why don't you start out by telling us just a little bit about yourself?
I'm just a 54-year-old lady. I have a family. I have 4 kids. I have a husband. I just got a grandson in November. And I just passed my 1-year mark. I'm 1 year post-transplant.
Well, congratulations to you. And also, I might want to mention your father was on not long ago. That was Dr. Robert Pritt, which we had him on a few months ago. And now I can't believe we have his daughter on. And you also had a heart transplant. So where did it all begin for you?
So, yes, my father had a heart transplant, and he can't wait to hear me saying my story. But he had a heart transplant, and we just kind of didn't really think anything of it. But a little while into his transplant, I started having a few issues. And I went to see my cardiologist, and the world's best cardiologist down here. And he said right off the bat, he goes, well, I think you're probably following in your dad's footsteps. It seems to be similar. And I think there's probably some genetics at work here. So we weren't really sure at that point that it was genetic, but we ended up going ahead and starting some genetic testing, and it was definitely genetics. So then I had the rest of my siblings were tested, and my kids I had tested. So yeah, it's genetic and it has some fall down. So that's not always a happy thing to hear and to know, but it's something that you just got to live with. So it's an LMNA gene mutation is what I have. And so it was kind of inevitable.
Well, I know as a father, I'm proud because my son has kind of followed in my footprints as far as getting into radio and broadcasting and everything. But I think when it comes to health-wise, I wouldn't be that excited for him to follow my footsteps, as far as this road was. But, things like this in life happen. And it's things that, like you said, you just have to live with and you have to push through. And I'm so happy that you are. And now you've had, I will say this because I have talked to your father, and I know, early, it was not the easiest ride for you, right?
It was kind of a bumpy ride. I had a pacemaker defibrillator. So like I said, mentioned before, I had some problems. So he was just kind of watching me. And my dad called, and it was on Labor Day. I'll never forget it. It was on Labor Day, and we had plans for something else. And he says, hey, how about you play some pickleball with me today? And this was his first time that he had been playing since his heart transplant. So he was only 5 months out from his transplant. So we, of course, changed all our plans, went over, and I got back on the court with my dad. So, actually, it was racquetball, not pickleball. We play pickleball now. It was racquetball then. But we were playing some racquetball, and I still maintained that I was winning. And my husband stuck his head in and said, just hit her with the ball if she gets in the way again. And the next shot, it actually hit me in the behind. And I'm a little bit dramatic. And if people know me, they'll laugh at that because, yeah, I'm a lot dramatic. So I'm grabbing my behind, and I'm screaming and I'm hollering, and my husband just thinks it's funny, and they think I'm just joking and overreacting. And then my head bounced on the floor, and then they all came running in. Mind you, my 4 children were in the window watching all this. My dad screams, call 911. So my husband runs down, has the guys call 911. Well, the guys think they're calling for an older gentleman because they think it's my dad, because he had just had a heart transplant. And they had literally just put defibrillators in the facility, basically because of my dad. So they grabbed the defibrillators out. My dad was trying to roll me over. Grant, he's in recovery himself, so he was struggling getting me rolled over. And another man who just happened to be there and happened to know all about cardiology helped him. They got the defibrillators going, and they shocked me. And while they were shocking me, my husband was like, what do I do? What do I do? And my dad says, you just keep praying. And he did. And they got ready to shock me again because I had no response. And my husband says he couldn't finish the prayer out loud. So he finished in his head. In his head, when he said amen, I took a big gulp of air. And that's what I remember my dad saying, there she is. She's back. She's back. And so I don't know. Memory's kind of fuzzy about all that kind of thing, but I know my kids were rushed off to my mom's house, and they were all freaking out. They got me to the hospital, and the only thing I was worried about was that I won, and my dad said that I forfeited. So,
that sounds like your dad, though. It really does.
yeah, he said I lost my forfeit. So my doctor comes in, and he knows that I'm pretty lighthearted about things, because that's just how I have to deal with things, to be lighthearted about serious things. And he shut the door to the hospital room, and he says, you died. You were dead. You weren't coming back. And I'm like, but I did. He goes, but you wouldn't have. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to put this defibrillator in. We're going to put this pacemaker in. Blah, blah, blah. And so they did that. And I was in the hospital for just a few days. He goes, all right, you need to go home and rest. And I was concerned because I was supposed to leave for a cruise on that Friday for my 40th birthday. So this happened that long ago. For my 40th birthday, we were going on a cruise, a girls' cruise. And I said, well, I can't go. I have to go on a cruise. And he looks at me like I'm insane. And my husband says, well, she can go home to 4 kids, or she can go on a cruise with her girlfriends who aren't going to let her do anything she shouldn't do. He's like, oh my gosh, fine. So I got to go on my cruise.
Well, that's good.
I had my arm in a wing, but I had a great time, good memories, and I was super happy to be able to do that and recover quietly on a cruise.
Were your friends really kind of henpicking you too? I mean, were they all being
yes.
mamas?
Yep, I had 13 friends with me. They all took best care of me. I was just watched over, protected the whole time.
Well, that's good.
And we had a blast in it. So then after I got that in, I lived relatively normally for 13 years with it. I got shocked a lot here and there, but it was all appropriate shocks. It was all when I was being very physically active. The first time I got shocked, I was actually whitewater rafting.
Oh,
and
wow.
Yeah, I got thrown out of the boat. The guide threw us out of the boat. And so, there's a little bit of panic ensuing there and a little struggle to get back in the boat. And people get me back in the boat and I get in and I'm just sitting there and I'm fine. I'm like, okay, that was all right. And all of a sudden I got shocked and I had no idea what it was. Like literally no clue. I was looking for a rock or a branch or something that had hit me in the chest because I was like, what was that? And I screamed out. I think I said something. I'm like, I think I said, what was that? And a lady put her hand on my shoulder and she says, she goes, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. And then it went off again. And she goes, I think there's something wrong with her. She's vibrating. And so then I realized what it was at that point. I was like, oh, I think that was my defibrillator. And they're like, what? You have a defibrillator? What are we supposed to do now? And I'm like, I think I'm good now. I feel all right. Let's just finish. So we finished down the river and nothing else happened because I was fine. Once I got shocked, it would shock me back. And I realized that as time went along. And I could feel the shocks coming on. I knew when they were going to happen. It was always when I was doing too much. And I would almost always know, not always. That first time I had no clue. But after that, I kind of had an idea when it was going to happen. And I would, sit down, lay down, get ready for it, whatever it was. But those were always very interesting.
Now, I had a defibrillator, but I don't know how I got so lucky, but mine never went off. But I have known many of people, with heart problems and heart transplants along the way that I've talked to and met. And it seems like every person I've talked to with a defibrillator, it had went off at least once minimum. And either I didn't feel it or I didn't know it, but thank God I don't remember mine ever going off. So hats off to you, young lady.
You definitely would have known it. It was something else.
Now I do have a friend who was in Fort Myers and he had a defibrillator and it went off and he drove his wife drove him all the way to Tampa and it was going off like every 3 to 5 minutes. And, he finally got there and I guess there was a defect in the defibrillator. That had to be one of the longest rides in the world from Fort Myers all the way into Tampa.
That would have been horrible. So mine only went off appropriately when needed during those 13 years until the very end. Like I said, I lived relatively normal. I did all my stuff. I was a photographer. It went off a couple times on photography shoots, and I would just get up and finish the shoot afterwards because after it goes off and I sit there and rest for a minute, it would be okay. It was shocking me back into the correct rhythm. It was getting me out of VTAC.
Yeah.
And so I would be relatively okay. Now, the next day I would be in bed all day, but at the moment I would be relatively fine. So I just finished my shoots. I mean, that's what I was there to do. I had to finish it. So, but there at the end, it didn't just shock me once. And I was doing like your friend, I was having VTAC storms is what I was having. And it would go off a lot over and over. And the very last time it did that, it went off 10 times in a row. And one of those was in the ambulance and 2 of them were in the hospital before I ended up on the helicopter over to Fort Lauderdale. So I bounced around hospitals, but I ended up at Fort Lauderdale Cleveland Clinic. And the team there is just amazing. I was very, very grateful.
So was that the one at Weston then? Is that the Cleveland Clinic in Weston?
Yeah. I originally was sent to Tampa because obviously that's where my dad went, and he knew the team there. So I went up there, and I had an insurance snafu or whatever, but the insurance would cover all the evaluation, but not the actual surgery. So, well, obviously that's not going to work. So we found Cleveland Clinic. So they transferred me back down there. And interesting thing about that was I had the surgeon that operated on me was Dr. Sheffield, and he actually was on the team that did my dad in Tampa.
Are you ready for this? He was also my surgeon at Tampa General 22 years ago when I got my transplant.
Okay, that's insane. And he is incredible. I love the man. He obviously saved my life, but that's crazy. So I know, I have a lot of faith, and I know the Lord was in the details of where I ended up and how I ended up and all the things that happened. I had many, many miracles that kept me alive along the way and got me to where I am today.
Well, congratulations to you, and I'm glad you're doing good. You had some rejection problems in the early days. Now, I have had what they call, and I believe your dad's had some of this too, donor-specific antibodies, and I've had some plasmapheresis and some photopheresis. And I know one time when I was getting my pheresis, he was in a couple rooms down from me when I was getting my treatment, and he was getting a treatment also.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah, so we got to say hello in the hospital. And I'll tell people too, I mean, the way I met your dad was that I'd had a heart transplant, and my neighbor girl sold pharmaceuticals. And she says, "Oh, you should be going to this doctor. He had a heart transplant. You've had a heart transplant. You guys would make a great patient-doctor relationship." And so I started going to him, and yeah, your dad is an amazing man. I'll tell you that. And you too, yourself. I think you did. Now, was that your sister or you? I know one of his daughters worked in the office when I would go to visit every once in a while.
That was my sister.
Okay.
That was my sister.
Okay. So
she worked in the office. And my dad is amazing. And it was great to have him as a support along the way. And, he came through with flying colors. And so that's kind of what I was expecting, just bing, bang, boom, and back at it. And I mean, I have been, but also it's been a little different. I don't know if that's because, I don't know. I don't know what the reason is, but I've had some frustrating times and some not so frustrating times. It's just everybody's different.
And that's what they've told me too, that, no two cases are the same. No people, react to, the drugs the same, and everybody's body is chemically made up differently. So, there's some, let me tell you, I started out really well, but there's been some major bumps along the way, and then there's been some major good times. So, and I'm very happy with 22 years. You can't ask for much more. Although I think and I'll tell you the same thing I told your dad, I'm going to go for the record for the longest living with a transplant, as far as time wise. Then after I break the record, you're welcome to break it after me. And then I wouldn't doubt that after your dad breaks my record, you can break his record. That'll work out.
Okay. I like that plan. That sounds like that's the goal.
Okay. All right. That's the goal you're working for. Now, let me ask you this, because this is kind of a different question, and I hope you don't mind me asking this, but like you said, your dad had a transplant. You had a transplant. I know as far as the surgery and the recovery, it was tougher on you, but mentally, which was tougher, watching your dad go through the transplant or yourself going through the transplant?
Mentally, it was watching my dad. When I saw my dad in the hospital, at that time, I already knew that I was following his path, and I was like, I'm not doing that. I'm just going to die. I'm not doing that. There's no way. And when it came down to it, and I'm in the hospital, and they're saying, well, you're in end-stage heart failure. You probably have maybe 2 months. I don't know how long it's going to last. But at that point, there really wasn't a question. And I wasn't ever really I say I wasn't nervous, but my doctors all know that I was a basket case.
Oh yeah, we all are.
But I wasn't. I just assumed the best. I just assumed I'm going to get this, and it's a problem I have. I'm going to get it fixed, and I'm going to move on with life. And that's what I've tried to do. I'm not doing huge, worldwide, world-renowned, fantastic things, but I'm doing my things, and I'm grateful that I can do them. I'm seeing so many things that I've been able to be part of that I would have missed out on. And I feel good. I can finally say that I feel really good. I'm doing everything that I used to do. Most everything that I used to do.
Well, hopefully your bumps, your big bumps, and like you say, and we've all said this, every case is different. So hopefully those big bumps for you were in the beginning, and now you'll have some smooth sailing. But probably like me and every transplant patient that I know, you're always saying, okay, what's the next shoe to drop? Because like I said, I'm getting ready to get a hernia surgery here next week. And I'll keep telling myself, well, okay, this is another bump, but we'll get through this and we'll continue on.
Exactly. I think that's the most frustrating part and the most mentally scary part is just because everything's a new normal now. And I hate that word so much, but that's what it is. It's a new normal. So every little weird thing that happens to me now, I'm like, okay, great. What is this? Is this regular or is it going to kill me?
Uh-huh.
I kind of go one extreme to the other. I don't really have a middle. It's either good or bad, one of the two.
Well, that's like getting the surgery. I'm even thinking like, okay, could this be? And I know it's stupid, and I try to get it out of my head as quickly as I can. But yeah, even every little thing you question now.
Yes, everything. All my joints hurt now, and I'm like, my joints didn't hurt before. My body did not hurt before. And the doctor's like, well, you got a new heart, not a new body. And I'm like, okay, but my body is not that old.
It's like I'm 70 now, and I keep saying, and they told me I wouldn't even make it to, my mid-teens. So I've got nothing to complain about. I had my first open heart surgery when I was like 13 years old, and I was the oldest living that had the surgery that I had when I was 13. All the other young children before that had passed away, and what I always think how that must have been so tough on my parents. But here you're. But here you're a mom. You've got what'd you say, 3 lovely children, and now
I have 4 kids.
Oh, 4 kids, and you got a grandkid now. And to think that without this heart transplant, you would have probably never got to see or hold that grandchild.
That is true. He was born in November, and I had my transplant in August. But yeah, as a parent facing it, one of my daughters tested positive for the gene. So yeah, it's something you don't want to think about. Like I said, we're very strange. Our family is very lighthearted and have a morbid sense of humor, I guess. So we just talk about, well, she'll say something. Well, when I get my transplant, I'll be doing this, and you'll be helping me, or whatever. It's not a fun feeling to think, oh, my kid's going to go down the same path. But the knowing, so I was involved in, right after, somewhere along in the way, I was involved in a testing at Tampa General with a genetics doctor, and they were specifically testing people who had defibrillators and this gene. Because, there's always studies and testing going on that can help fix it. And he said that. He said, we're working on something right now that can maybe fix this gene or prolong the gene or do something. So I was like, yep, sign me up. I'll be part of that study. I want to help my daughter in particular, but anybody else that has to go through this. If you can fix the gene, that would be awesome. And that was reiterated to me by the doctors at Cleveland Clinic, that the studies are just ongoing and, they're fixing things. So there's always the hope that the gene will be mutated and they can fix it.
Now, in this podcast, I have, and I don't know if I got on some kind of mom's group or what, but I've talked to some pediatric mothers, and I've stayed close with a couple of them that I've talked to, to help them when they're having some difficult times. And I remember from being a child, as a sickly child, I said that was my normal. So when they're worried about their kids being doing this and doing that, but they see them joking around and playing games and having fun while being connected to this machinery that is keeping them alive. I said, but you know what? That is your son or your daughter's normal. And to me, that was my normal growing up. So, it didn't affect me because I knew I was different from the other kids, but it was still my normal. So I didn't know what it felt like to run and do things that the other kids did. So I try to, make them feel like, they can, not worry so much about their child because they're going through their normal right now. It might not be the ideal normal, but if they're laughing and they're joking and they're having fun in life, then be blessed that they're doing that. And I also tell them, and I'll tell you the same thing, what you're kind of saying. Medical science changes each and every day. Like when I was first told, like at 9 years old, my parents were told, oh, he'll never live to see 13 or 14. And then a new experimental surgery came up. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And, in the medical world. So I always say, I should have been dead like 10 times, but just about the time I die, oh, we got this now. Okay, I'll take it.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. When I was getting the time when I had my defibrillator in, I would get shocked. People around me would be concerned and worried. And I'd be like, it's nothing. Happens all the time. I'm fine. I'm fine now. And they're like, what? Like, yeah. It's all good. It's all
like
good.
You said, it becomes your normal.
Yeah. Your normal's always changing, actually. So.
Yeah. Well, anything else you'd like to mention? Because I want to give you an open forum here to talk about and say whatever you'd want. So, I'm going to...
I don't know. I'm sure as soon as we stop, I'll think of a million things I should have said and could have said. But I think one of the greatest things for me has been seeing just the amazing support and love and outpouring from strangers, from people I don't even know, from my family, and just seeing my family step up. My girls were, they're not young anymore. They're 23 and 21, but they had to step up and become nurses. My boys had to step up and take care of things. My husband was still working at the time, so everybody was driving back and forth. And I was never alone. People were always there with me. My girls were amazing. My boys were incredible. My friends and family were just indescribably supportive. So that I'm thankful for.
Well, I want to mention... I wanted to mention, too, that Jennifer was very nervous about doing this podcast. And, I think you did an amazing job and you told your story in the most awesome way. So I appreciate that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I was very nervous. I just don't, I don't normally share. And as I mentioned before in the beginning, this is just at my 1 year mark and things just have been hitting me pretty hard, just reliving it, thinking about it again, and realizing how far I've come, and just realizing the hard decision that my donor family was able to make at a time that was horrible for them. And I don't know yet anything about that family. I don't know if the donor made the decision himself before or if the family had to make it for them. But regardless, that was a sacrifice that they made that allowed me to have what I have now. And without that, life would be a whole lot different. So I'm so grateful for people who are able to make hard decisions selflessly.
And you always think about that in the back of your mind, that donor family, what they were probably going through the day that, you got your new lease on life and, you got your gift of life while they lost a life. But when I talk to these donor mothers on the show, it's just, they love seeing their loved ones' legacies continue on in other people. And it doesn't give them closure, I believe, but it does give them some sense of, I don't know, happiness. So, because like I said, I just talked to a mother last week on the show, and, she just likes even talking about that her son was a donor because his legacy lives on through them.
Exactly. I think the hardest time it hit me because, right after surgery, I don't know how you were, but I don't even remember a whole lot of that time. My memories are super fuzzy and I can't keep anything straight, but I do remember Christmas. I had my transplant in August. I got home in September, and from September to Christmas was, pretty slow going recovery. But I remember Christmas morning, that was the first time I got really, really, really emotional, that I wasn't just drugged up emotional, because Christmas Day was perfect. My kids were there. My grandson was there. My parents were coming over. Everything was absolutely perfect. And it just hit me all of a sudden. For somebody else, they were having their first Christmas and it wasn't perfect. And I was a mess. And I was grateful and sad all at the same time. So it's this really weird feeling to even be able to wrap your head around. I don't know. It's just really hard to wrap your head around being grateful and sad at the same time.
And it's hard to explain. And I think it's even harder to explain to other people, how we feel, because there's part of us that's saying, I'm living because someone had to die, but yet, you're grateful for it. Yeah. It's just, like you said, it's just hard to explain even to another person that had a transplant. But it's just this odd feeling that you get. And yeah, that's, like I say, that's kind of why we do this podcast, because we talk about stuff like this and we learn that we're not alone in this journey. There's many that are living the same journey we are. And I think that's what makes this podcast so important, in all honesty.
Yeah, I agree. You've brought a lot of awareness and a lot of, in all facets of the transplant process. So that's what I think is really interesting and great about your podcast, is you hit all the different sides and perspectives.
Well, I saw Christine Applegate on a late night show, and she has MS right now. She's really battling that. And she has a friend who also has MS, and they decided they wanted to do a podcast to get the word out and to tell people what MS is all about. And it just hit me in the face. I've been in broadcasting my entire life, practically. Started when I was a senior in high school. I did another podcast. I do another podcast with my old radio partner, Bill Stevens, that we did down in Fort Myers. And I says, well, that's stupid. Why aren't I doing a podcast on organ transplants? And so if it wasn't for Christine Applegate, I probably wouldn't be doing this podcast.
Well, you're doing a great job, and I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to at least get part of my story out. I'm sure, like I said, I'll think of a million things I should have said, but I did what I could do.
I'm going to ask you now, because we talked about this, because you said, now my dad's going to get real excited if I do this, so don't tell him that I'm going to do it. And so are you just going to tell him, I think I don't have the episode numbers in front of me, but it's going to be the first week in September, the first Tuesday. It'll be released on a Tuesday. And I just wonder, you're just going to say, Dad, I heard this podcast. You need to listen to it. This really touched my heart. You need to listen to it too. And then it be his daughter.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what I'm going to do, because he'll love that. He's been like on me. Why don't you do it? Why don't you do it? And it just hasn't been the right time for me. I haven't been able to I haven't been able to do it. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say, because I've been listening to your episodes. I drive back and forth to Fort Lauderdale all the time. And that's what I listen to on the way over and back is your podcast. So I started at the beginning and listened to all of them after you did my dad's. And many of them were very, very touching and touched me specifically. So I knew I wanted to do it. I just had to be ready to do it.
Well, and I've had a couple people that were in your same shoes going, I want to do it, but I just don't know. I don't know. And once they do it, actually, they said it was, I had one guy that was like on the fence for the longest time and did it. Of course, he's on an LVAD. And then after he did it, he said, that was very, it was like very helpful. And it helped him tell his story. I mean, it made him feel a lot better. So hopefully he'll do the same with you.
It is. It's a little therapeutic. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, you can't tell your dad until after this episode airs, but tell him that I said hi, and he's a hell of a guy.
All right. I will tell him.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, BJ.
Thank you so much, Jennifer, for sharing your story with us today on The Gift of Life. And be sure to join us each week for a new heartfelt episode. And if you have a transplant story, please email us, giftoflifepodcast@gmail.com. Again, that's giftoflifepodcast@gmail.com. Follow us on Facebook, and don't forget to like and share this episode with family and friends. And we would appreciate your 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform. Another podcast you might enjoy is myself and my former morning radio partner, Bill Stevens. BJ and Bill, the podcast, all a part of the Podcast Playground Network. We want to thank them so much for making this podcast possible. Until next time, I'm BJ Odom. Thank you for being a part of our journey and reminding us all to appreciate each and every day and to treasure the extraordinary gift of life.
He was running on empty, heart fading fast. Doctor said, man, you ain't gonna last. But a stranger's kindness, a gift so true, turned the night sky into something new. He got a second chance, he got a brand new spark. Like a freight train rolling back from the dark. Gift of life, let the story be told. One heart beats, another takes hold. Give a little, save a soul. Ain't no greater rock and roll. 15 years later, the road got rough. The fight ain't over when the climb is tough. Needed a kidney, the race was on. Another hero stepped up, kept him strong. Every breath he takes is a tale of hope. One life saved, another can cope. Gift of life, let the story be told. One heart beats, another takes hold. Give a little, save a soul. Ain't no greater rock and roll. Doctor's hands, a donor's grace, running on down to a brand new place. Second chances don't come twice, but when they do, man, they feel so nice. So let's spread the word, let the people know. One yesterday lets a miracle grow. You don't need wings just to save a man, just a little love, a helping hand. Gift of life, let the story be told. One heart beats, another takes hold. Give a little, save a soul. Ain't no greater rock and roll. BJ still rocking, still standing tall, thanks to the ones who gave it all. Gift of life, hear the sound. Pass it on, pass it down. The Gift of Life podcast, hosted by BJ Odom. Listen now.